what they sow. Whoa.
Another day, another Bravo stream over here at the College Cod, and you know what they say, it's better late than ever. Had a little bit of trouble getting up here, but you know what? We're here nonetheless. Opening up is myself, Seymour. Alongside me is going to be Mick himself on the mic, and we have a ton of fantastic matches today across College Cod, and already, I mean, we got it going on the Alpha stream, where you're probably going to see West Virginia University, Potmac State College versus Ohio State University going on right now, but coming up soon for Bravo, we're going to have the University of Hartford versus the Naval Academy. It's going to be so sick to see it. Isn't that right, Mick?
It is indeed. Looking forward to these two guys playing. We do know that Naval Academy does have two teams. So they were looking at the gold team. They're 1-1 right now, and they're kind of favored in terms of today. But overall, we're just hoping to see these two guys kind of deuce it out, and maybe see some curveballs today and have an exciting match on our hands.
Over on the Alpha stream, I mean, they're not going to be just done with that first one. You got Florida State and Full Sail. That's going to be a good matchup. And following that on the Alpha stream, the Rutgers versus New Jersey Institute of Technology game. I honestly, that right there, I know that that's going to be a fire matchup because both of those teams have history in the league. But over here on the Bravo stream, following this match one, it is going to be Sacred Heart University versus the University of New Haven. And to finish off, we will close with the University of Alabama in Huntsville against Kennesaw State University. So all along it, other UHART versus USNA gold team, it is going to be fantastic here. It's going to be standout, and I cannot wait to see what we have here because yesterday we had a quick 3-0, and honestly, nobody really likes sweeps. So I want University of Hartford, I want the Naval Academy, I want them to go neck and neck. Now, if you guys are a little bit curious on this first matchup going on against University of Hartford and the Naval Academy. Well, I mean, on the home team, we got Nuclear, Stitch, Shockey, and Storm. That's Hartford. And over on the Naval Academy, Winnie LaPoo, Don Julio, Putin, and Fades. So like you said, these teams, they have what it takes, Mick. And especially on the maps that are coming up, I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, completely agree. All these guys, in terms of Garrison, we haven't seen too much of that personally with just us two guys, but it seems to be a somewhat, familiar pick with everybody. But we will see Raid again at some point as well tonight, going on. And that's obviously super popular. But overall, I'm really excited personally to see this Garrison matchup. We haven't seen it yet. And as I say, this whole map just feels as like a push of war with just nothing but lanes going down. So, it's really exciting to see how teams get forced into those kind of engagements and they sit there and, go back and forth in these lanes.
Well, for all of you veteran COD fans, you know what's going on. For the new bloods here, ready to see it, we will start off with our hard point on Garrison, following that Raid, S&D, and then checkmate control for that third match, which I'm excited. I like checkmate control, so I can't wait for that one. If it goes the distance, Raid hard point, and then Moscow S&D to close out for that map number 5. If it goes that far, but that is the future. That's the distance here, Mick. I want to talk about Garrison. You say you're excited. Well, I can't wait to see. I mean, we don't know these rosters right in here, but this is the start of the season. I'm ready to see some surprise names come out here. And Garrison is going to be a test to these assault rifle players to how that they can set the pacing of a map like Garrison, where those SMGs have a lot of rain on the map, where they can find those sneaky routes. And right off the bat, whoever spawns up on that P2 to spawn for that first hard point, I expect a heavy dominance from the ARs on platform as well as floating tank, so that they can take control of green and they can watch over lights. So I'm watching these ARs in this game. I can't wait to see what happens. And already we're up and on with exactly what I was talking about, Storm on the floating tanks.
Yep, and exactly running those ARs, as you said, finding those long distance angles, those little peachy spots, in those small angles where they can utilize those ARs to their fullest extent, in these long range engagements. Sadly, getting traded out right there, but we do see Stitch running the SMG on the point with these smaller engagements, these closer little angles right there, making sure, all these lineups and all these trades feel as fair as possible and utilizing these guns to where they can excel the most.
Well, the one thing about Garrison is that a ton of money hills to be had between both of these teams. You already see the Stitch soak up so much of point number 1. Putin finally taking him out. And honestly, Naval Academy, they're going to have the spawns for second point. I say that, but look, number 4 in the back, he's going to spawn up. So he's going to have an interesting gunfight against number 6 on satellite if he can take that for this rotation. Don Julio, he has to know it's been quiet through green. So he picks up that player on the rotation. Ooh. He's going to have the first initial time on this second hard point, but he's going to collapse on really fast.
Yeah, and that's an issue, we see with Don Julio right there. A lot of players don't have a tendency to remember the fact that if you're sitting on that tank, you don't get points for that. You don't get points for the hard point right there. You have to be on the ground. You have to be around the tank somehow on the floor to sit there and get those points. And a lot of players have a tendency to think that they're just in that area, regardless of how high they are or where they are in elevation. They don't get the points for them.
Shockey goes down. Putin opening up. Luckily, the trades are here from both teams. Don Julio's going to get on the point of contention finally for Naval Academy. Fade's going to be working alongside Don Julio. They're going to get a double kill in the feed. Take back point two, but that's everything you want for Hartford University because they are going to have the spawns for point three now, Mick. And that itself is going to provide a good money hill. Connection interrupted, so maybe some lobby issues here. So I don't know what's happening with the lobby, what happened with the players, but connection interrupted. That isn't spelling too many good things here. We
No.
know what that means as COD kids, Mick. And I do hear that we get it. We're getting it back. The voice in my head is providing this. So we're back on point number 3. University of Hartford here. Nuclear locking it down.
Yeah, and this site, I love seeing this site personally. This site 3 right here in the corner, you have a lot of open engagements. As you said kind of earlier, where those ARs, they can extend their range to the furthest extent. You have all these wide open areas with small peaks, small little areas to take these cover, but such a close quarters kind of point where these SMGs can really shine. And that's why this point has so much diversity to it, so much kind of different gunfights that you can see as we see Winnie already going down here into long in those AR engagements there, sadly losing it. But it's a really hard point to take back with it being such a corner spot and really easy to camp down.
Now you're looking at the rotation underneath the floating tank on the floor of this. Putin going to be watching for those players rotating from P3 to P4. Nuclear going to be tagged up with the rest of his team falling down. Nice little trades from the teams, but coming alive. University of Hartford break on through. Don Julio has to watch out for this pinch between Stitch and the rest of Hartford. They're going to take back this point, and with an easy break, they're just bullying through the opposition.
Yeah. Putin had a really great setup right there inside of green, sitting there watching out over the guys, sadly not getting every single trade he runs into, waiting for Don to kind of get on the point when, that's a couple seconds lost when they're so in such a big deficit right now. But, if these guys can sit there and lock down these rotations, make sure, they have better setups, finding these angles and getting a little bit more cheekier with the spots that they set up in, I think this could be an easy comeback for them. As we already see, they're establishing themselves on the point, and hopefully they can go ahead and get these rotations down to get this next point unlocked and get this comeback and, really let the game run as long as it possibly can, especially from here in this caster's booth, because we want to see, a good game that runs out and is back and forth over the whole course of it.
Well, Hartford's been running away so far with Stitch himself. 15-5 on a 4 spree here. With Shockey locking down this point, it should be a lot of time soaked up for UHART. Once again, very on the edge of 100-point lead here. You see Shockey expecting the bricks change, but Don Julio has the backup from his teammate Fade to break from the Naval Academy, with Don Julio absolutely slaying out here himself 10-7. So stepping up to the plate against Stitch when he needs to. You got 25 seconds on this time bank. As we rotate from P5 back to the initial, University of Hartford, they're going to be looking for this the rest of the time on the first. And a player that we can look out for in this as well is Stitch, who had a noticeable amount of time in that initial hard point right off the bat of this game.
Mm-hmm. And, speaking on Stitch, I think Stitch is playing a very good job being aggressive. You always want to have a guy allocated to kind of rotating around the point, winning those gunfights. And man, who is confident with aggressing as hard as he can, winning those gunfights, a guy who goes positive like Stitch right now, and kind of carrying on the momentum and saying, you know what, man, that's fine. We got Don Julio and we got Fades. These guys are on the point. In our situation, we got Storm who's on the point and Shockey. So you go ahead, you do your thing and go out.
You see, well, Winnie LaPoo there having the backup for his teammate. I mean, Don Julio had the better of him from the Stitch there, but that team fire, that crossfire that they held is going to help them hold on to this initial time. They had a really good break. Now you have to look for point 2, where University of Hartford had a stellar hold for this. They soaked up probably about 60% of the hard point, which is a lot for that point 2, where you might see a lot of contention come through both sides on the pinch. Once again, Hartford here first. They're going to try to hold this down.
Yeah, and we see Storm already sitting there rotating for it. everybody over here on Hart sitting there trying to rotate, already kind of surrounding that point, making sure it's locked down as best as possible, knowing that green is going to be the biggest push in terms of where these spawns are going to line up. So, you got nuclear hit set it up right there. Shocky sadly gets traded off there, but he also overextended a little bit on over to the guys because you do want to watch where over in brick, you want to make sure these guys don't get that flank somehow. But overall, doing a great job making sure that they don't overextend as a team rather than as a player.
And where we saw Stitch on a 5 spree earlier, now Winnie the Pooh hit that nice little marker himself. And Faye's going to be launching through bricks. Has to worry about the cross, though. Shocky's going to be setting up on in green once again. And this is a testament to exactly what happened last time. This is the same position that Hartford had. They were setting up for third, didn't even worry about the last 30 seconds of second. So I want to see if they can continue with what they did on the time that they got last.
And yeah, thankfully we got, at this point, the guys are tying up the game. We saw that they were in a pretty large deficit earlier, but they finally caught up that 165 to 164. It may not be the exact score they wanted to see. They want to be ahead at this point, but they're showing that they definitely have the capability to come back in this and showing that, the game's not over no matter how large of an advantage you get. You have to hit 250 for this game to be over. So they're going to keep on trading out here over on point 3, which is once again just so great. We see guys backing up towards spawns, trying to lock those down, make sure there's not any side flanks coming through. Naval Academy really locking themselves down right now with the retaliation and trying to come back in this and doing a really good job at it as well, with Putin holding down and getting these kills and locking it. But regardless, at this point, they need to be looking at rotations. There's only 10 seconds left and they're trying to push out, but they've kind of locked themselves into those spawns right there, making it really hard to set up for this next point.
You look at number 4 here, Stitch. Really aggressive in here, watching the lanes that you're talking about. Trying to set up with Shocky to keep the Naval Academy back in that third hard point. Lock down their spawns. Putin's going to break out to where Stitch was last time. And the backup from Fade's a nice bait and switch there to take that player out from the prominent position. Storm on the point, locking it down the contestation as long as he can, where Don Julio swings around with Winnie the Pooh. A 3-kill, 3 players down for Hartford now. Make it 4 as Winnie the Pooh hits that third. He's 19-20. They cross the 200 marker. This is starting to be a good matchup where we saw Hartford at a 100-point lead earlier.
Yep. I think, with Naval Academy, they've really stepped it up. They sat there and, as I said earlier, they just don't want to let go of this. They know if they get that first point advantage, they know that even though over the long course of things, this speaks volume. Oh, like say, even if these guys, as long as they get a lead, that they're not going to be out of the game and they're providing themselves some breathing room right now, especially with them coming up very close. At this point in the game, this is where these ties are going to be huge and the contests like these are going to be large because even if the team isn't going to be holding things down, Hart has to sit there and lock down this point, get these trades done because contesting is just going to let time run and it's going to sit there and let these guys put these situations in Naval Academy towards like, we can chill all we need to. We're ahead. So it's going to be back and forth.
You got that lockdown from FaZe right now, soaking up the time, finally cleaned up by Stitch, so nobody is going to be on this hard point. Hartford, their chance now to get on this, take as much as they can, pushing into the rotations. You only need 15 seconds for the Naval Academy to take this. And it doesn't look like they're opting to spend all their lives here as Don Julio drops a hell of an artillery strike right on the point to break it wide open. They can still win on it if they clear this fast enough, but honestly, if I was them, I'd be looking at this rotation. Stitch back on his 5 spree. They're slaying out. It's pandemonium and chaos as the Carnage is tearing up this 5th hard point. And as the rotations are coming in, so it's getting close now for Hartford again.
Yeah, and I think we already got Don looking at that and trying to make sure that mention. He was the only one over there on the point, and he's like, guys, let's forget about this last point. We already have the lead. We got a couple seconds left. We need to sit there and rotate this. We need to grab this next point, and we can lock this down. Otherwise, they're going to get a more advantage. Their points are going to be going up more and more and more, and I have to use my kill streak for this, man. Like, let's just go ahead and get this in and lock it down. So we have this breathing room for search and destroy.
Yeah, and they had that artillery strike burnt there, not finding any value in the time bank for that 0.5. Now an even game between both teams and contention on the point. Stitch is going to for the wide swing, cleans up Don Julio. Putin getting the back and forth right now in the kill feeds. And Naval Academy staying alive here, keeping it tight between both games. Still a winnable point for either one. They push it back. Hartford into that 0.2-3 spawns. 8 seconds left for Naval Academy. You have to touch. Somebody's going to have their foot down. They're making sure you can't win off this first hard point. Don Julio still on it. He's got 2 seconds here. That's not going to be enough. They're going to be on 249 on this rotation. Stitch is here now. Don Julio has to make a hero play, but he's going to go down to Storm now. Stitch, he's going to break through for Naval Academy. You have everybody just pouring into this hard point. Winnie LePlue now, a one-on-one with Stitch, trying to win out the most important gunfight of this whole game. But Stitch staying alive here. You got team kills. Everybody is not giving up on this. Finally, the Naval Academy, they're going to hop in, take it 250 to 39. An absolute insane second last and last point for this hard point.
Those are the games right there that we love to see. Here in the Casters booth for the audience, all the guys. When it comes down to those last couple seconds, where it comes down to a single point. And thankfully, you know, for Naval Academy, they had those rotations. You know, you had Nuclear over there. You had Stitch over there on the point, just kind of holding things down, making sure as best as possible to lock it down, be like, all right, you know, I'm in a 1v4 situation right here, boys. I need some help. Because you had Naval Academy just flowing in constantly, and finally getting that last second they needed to get that round on the board. And I mean, good for them.
I mean, Stitch could only do so much there, Mick. I mean, he was literally standing on his head for that last hard point over on Satellite. And I mean, as many people as were coming in, you had a team kill from Putin. Winnie the Pooh got cleaned up by Stitch. And finally, they kind of nipped at the toes enough for Stitch to go down. They only needed 1 point. So really, nobody was there for Hartford to hit that contention. I have to really highlight that Hartford had a 100-point lead. It was like 150 to 51 at one point. And Naval Academy doing everything they could. That is what you love about Call of Duty. That is the heart of the competition right here for College COD. And it's those comebacks that we live for now. Garrison Hardpoint, as close as you could literally ask in the end of the rounds. But Raid S&D, that's going to tell a new tale. So, I mean, Mick, why don't you run through a little bit of what you want to see from the second map?
Out of Raid, you know, I love personally looking back on how older CODs have been, you know, especially with the Modern Warfare era where I personally played a lot of. I like to see slower gameplay. I like to see teams thinking before they act. I like to see a lot of good rotations, a lot of almost like a game of like chess with guns, as weird as it sounds. But it's just great to sit there and see when teams can sit there and like kind of converse with each other. Should we sit there and full stack one? Should we 3-in-1 and throw a little distraction in the board? All kinds of things. And Raid has a lot of space to do that, which is why I really love this map. And also because just the nostalgia factor that it brings for everybody who most people did start during Black Ops 2 with how great of a title it was and how great of a map this is.
Well, the one thing for Raid S&D that I'm really looking forward to both of these teams is towards the end of the game, we saw full team breaks from both Hartford and Naval Academy. So this is going to tell me that I don't expect it to slow down at the end or going into this S&D. I expect, excuse me, right off the bat, Naval Academy or Hartford, like whichever starts on the attack here, absolute just balls to the walls here, just going in 4-on-4, maybe hits, and that could really shake up the defenders there, because if you go for the 4-man hits onto the site, sometimes you're not really expecting that when it does come to the defensive side, and that could really spread thin the defenders across Kitchen, you know, the A site and the B site. So I don't know what I'm going to see from both of these teams. I expect aggression after that first hard point. Right now, we're going to throw to a little bit of a break for some server connection issues. We'll be right back with some more College COD. Wasting no time at all. We're going to be hopping right in with this second map on Raid S&D. And it's going to be a good one. I mean, you wanted to talk about a little bit for these splits that I was mentioning, and I cannot wait to see it myself. So, Raid S&D, break it down for me, Mick.
Hopefully, you know, that's exactly what I was going to mention, is talking about this middle split. That's a huge thing you want to get inside of this map. If you get that middle advantage, and you can sit there and make a push out on the outside, and you had that middle control, the Black Ops is following their general kind of rule in terms of maps. You know, you have those 3 lanes, and if you get that middle advantage, you can sit there and open it up for your teams to go anywhere you want them to. And that's exactly what Naval Academy did right off the bat, charging it down mid, trying to get that establishment and trying to hold it down so they can make a push out somewhere. Unluckily, not following it up there with, you know, Stitch on the side, but, you know, doing what they can.
And 2-on-3 now. Don Julio recovers the bomb, moves over to Art. Has to worry about Stitch, who just got into the back line. So you're taking a look at the minimap. Stitch not even going to be checking top Art here. Winnie the Pooh with Golden across the map is going to open up for a 2-on-2, possibly giving Don Julio that go-ahead for the B site. Now, if Winnie the Pooh stays alive here, distracts Shocky enough, that could be the bomb down, and B site totally locked down. Now, Winnie the Pooh is absolutely popping off here. You're in a one-on-one situation. Don Julio Stitch right across the corner. Julio with the opening and shuts down a 3-on-2 that University of Hartford wanted dearly.
Man, he said, no, you don't do that, man. That was a good clutch by the boys. And, you know, as I was mentioning earlier, Don Julio, I want to say this man's clutch all over the board, whether it's in-game or whether it's, you know, just his name generally. It speaks volume. And I think everybody knows and loves Don Julio. And I think, you know, just stepping up right there and showing in-game what he can accomplish, you know, these guys over at Hart, they're just going to have to close him out. He's a threat.
You can't really blame Shonky there for checking over top of the B towards the B site instead of Winnie the Pooh wrapping around 2 gardens. So Winnie the Pooh getting the good timing on there, finding those 2 kills in the back of it. Storm, my guy, are you okay? He's gonna kill himself with his nade. That is not what you like to see from University of Hart after getting clutched up against by the Naval Academy. Now Putin looks like he's going to be running through the middle of the map, trying to take aim. A nice 1-for-1 trade is going to leave University of Hart still down by 2, but a little bit closer to a 2-on-2 advantage now. Naval Academy, they want to hold on to their lead right here. Stitch makes it a 2-on-2, but now 1 player left alive. Shocky is going to turn it into 1-on-1 now against Putin. Dancing around the spiral. Both players just ring around the rosy here. So whoever's just going to check the other one. Shocky finally going to get the better timing. Choking his shots. No. Putin. Oh, you cannot let that happen if you're UHART twice in a row. The Naval Academy clutch up in a 1-on-1.
Yeah, and Shocky even had the upper hand there. He had those first couple shots. You can even look at Putin's health bar there in the bottom. He was only 1 shot off, but, you know, you got to, once it comes down to fundamentals, you know, playing in pubs and playing with scrims and all that kind of stuff, you got to work on those head glitches, man, because if you give them some kind of upper hand like that, especially after you get those first couple shots, that it just feels bad to sit there and lose a gunfight like that when you already had the upper hand to even out the rounds here.
Shocky had him dead to rights. Now Putin getting aggressive with their spiral. Team shot onto Stitch in the back of the map. That's a big kill because Stitch is the heavy hitter for Hartford. Now good nade check on a Putin is going to equalize it. Split open by Winnie the Pooh and Fades. Now last one alive going to be Storm. 0-2 in the search and destroy. Now this is really looking like a 3rd round here unless Storm can make rain with this 1-on-2 and do exactly what the Naval Academy has been doing against the University of Hart for the past 2 rounds. He is going to make this rotation and a lot against him right now, Mick. It's doable, but it's hard.
Yeah, he's got to find a weird way to sit there and infiltrate these guys and find these angles. He's already going to sit there and be looking at spiral as we see, looking for angles where he can. Getting called out by FaZe, though. So these guys know exactly where he is, and it really compromises his position if he's trying to make this push on B. He's going to go for a flank, but he doesn't check over there and up guard gallery, and that's a huge spot right there. They could have easily double-teamed that man right there.
I would say it was a pretty interesting push from Storm going all the way underneath the art gallery, not checking that position first end. But I mean, a 1-on-3 that was already had everything against you. So why not just go for the ballsy play there? You're seeing Fades working alongside Don Julio and Winnie the Pooh to break on into the site. Easy plant. I like what I've seen from the Naval Academy early on. University of Hart, they are falling behind in these very close rounds, and it's costing them 3-0 right now.
Mm-hmm. Which, you know, as we saw earlier, you know, there's always a chance for a comeback. We saw Naval, maybe Hearts will sit there and snap back and do the same kind of deal. Even as we saw with Ohio State, as you guys were seeing, you know, the viewers watching that Ohio State game, you know, winning 5 in a row. We could see that here. You know, with Raid, it's very kind of readable. It's a lot of strategy behind it. As long as you can sit there and get a read on these guys and figure out what the team's doing. This map is easily adaptable as everybody already knows it like the back of their hand.
Look at the mini-map. Julio's in the back. He gets checked. Stitch. That's a huge play because if Julio got away with that, that would have left open the whole back line of Hartford. Now, luckily for Hartford, it was a 1-on-1 trade. Stitch going down spells trouble. Now 2 down for Hart, a 3-on-2 favoring Naval Academy. We're on board with Storm trying to find that backline kill, but Putin has the better of him with that AK-74U. They're going to be flooding into Nuclear. LaPoo right in front of him. A 1-on-1 once again. Hartford with a good opportunity to find their first round, but Fades to do it this time, as that is the 3rd player for the Naval Academy to clutch up for this team.
We were hoping Nuclear right there would get something like that. That was a good shot right there on him at the stairs. You know, locking down these two guys, getting those clips, and getting in a weird position on the stairs rather than actually still peeking that spot and camping it down inside the room. You know, waiting on these guys and being the aggressor, making sure to catch him by surprise. Unfortunately, you know, he got traded out right there at the end. You know, these guys over at Naval really showing that they know the map. A, they know the map rate, and B, they love search and destroy, and they're showing that right here. You know, I can even talk in the past how they sat there and they've established themselves in search and destroy.
That first pick on a Winnie the Pooh, that's huge because that AR has been spelling terror for Hartford. Now Stitch going to find the second for them after Putin takes down Storm. It's going to leave Hartford in a 3-on-2 now. The best advantage I've seen since round number 1, but Stitch a little bit overzealous. Is found out from Fades, who brings it to the equal 2-on-2. That's going to give the opportunity for the attackers for a full plant on A to find their post plants. You look at the defenders all the way backed up on the B side here, Mick. Unless the attackers move over to, hey, this is going to be an easy plant and a free plant.
Yeah, you know, Hart, they're sitting there. You see, they're posted up, and they finally have realized at this point, they're like, "Oh, we haven't seen these guys for a while. We need to maybe rotate and find a way to do this." You know, you got Shocky sitting there setting up mid. You got Nuclear getting a trade right there, showing that we can adapt to this. We can come back. You know, they got the bomb down. We just got to lock it out. We got to rotate. We know exactly where they are. You know where they got to stay. We can sit there and we can make room with this.
Phase, he's going to just jump wide into Nuclear's sights. The first round for Hartford as they have plenty of time to hit this defuse. That's a big round as well. I mean, you opened up onto Winnie the Pooh. You had the 2-on-2 split from either team on that equal 2v2. And honestly, that could have gone both ways. Luckily, the retake was very thorough from Hartford. They were able to catch out the player moving back towards bedroom. And they were able to make that 2-on-1 stick together for the trade. And Nuclear just finding the better out on that wraparound. Big plays from Hartford, and this is where we saw OSU last time in their search and destroy to make that 5-round comeback.
Yeah, and I think they're capable of doing that. You know, as long as they can get these bombs down, they can put, you know, Naval Academy in a weird position, showing, hey, you know, we can get this bomb down. As long as we show ourselves in a place where we're putting them in a hostage situation where they have to lock themselves down somewhere, we had the capability to win these trades as we've done in the past. As we already see, Nuclear picking off Fades right there, right off the bat, opening up B as much as possible. They don't see our perspective, but they have a free plant right here unless they sit there and lock down Lapu in the mid.
That was a good stun check there to force Putin off that heady. Now Storm opportunity. Putin gonna find the better of him. Storm is taken down in that corner, and you get last alive. Nuclear once again, same spot as last time, but this time is he able to make the heroics and send it to a 1-on-1. Dance arounds after that, finding the kill, leaving it in a better situation. Now, is he going to find a better Putin? Putin with that submachine gun, just also the opportunities are just so much better with this 74U in that situation. And the closeout from Putin was beautiful to leave them 5-1 now. Naval Academy, after that hard point where they were down 100 points and made the comeback, they have not slowed down.
They feel right at home with this. You know, already showing a 5-1 lead, showing that they love this map. They love the trades. They love the long distance engagements. Maybe that's what choked them up a little bit in Garrison. Is, you know, there's so many short alleys to sit there and fight. There's so many tunnel kind of interactivity there. But I feel in Raid, they're feeling right at home to where it's like we got plenty of space to work with. We can air out, we can breathe, and we can sit there and fight, and we can win them as well. And, you know, that's what they've done so far, and they're looking really good in this matchup in terms of search and destroy.
Mid-map control, all to the Naval Academy. So they have the opportunity to go A or B. They just have to find that opening. What they don't know is that there's 3 players on B and only 1 to defend the A side. So whichever way they take, I mean, one is going to be better. Now, Winnie the Pooh getting dropped by Shocky should send them over to that A site. But in that kill, Shocky was able to find his way into Art, get in behind the team. Now the go-ahead for the A site. Don Julio goes down, only 2 left for USNA. And they're going to drop this bomb, hopefully. Doesn't look like that. They're playing for kills here. Putin goes all the way in the backside. Doesn't check Storm mid Gardens. Fades last alive now for the Naval Academy. Is going to be good for 1 kill. But now 1-on-3. We've seen the University of Hartford players in this situation all too many times. It's going to be a tough matchup right here. He's going to be taking the bomb to the B side where he got Nuclear watching out. His AR has been stellar. But is he going to expect from Laundry Fades to dive right into the site? You know, it's going to take 5 seconds to plant it, and the timer is going to cross over that margin. It is going to be the second round for University of Hartford. Fades staying alive here, but really not meaning too much.
Yeah, and I think that you got to look at that timer. That was huge. You had a guy set up there on spiral. You had two guys rotating back over there to to the pool side bomb, really trying to sit there and lock it down. But at that point, these guys in Naval Academy, they're going to be long gone by that point. They know that you guys have rotated. They know they're going to have that whole site on lockdown, and they don't want that. They don't want to sit there and be, held hostage, in a surrounding environment. He's going to try and make it out as much as he can. At a point, you mostly want to set up there a mid with how open the middle is and how much easy of access you have to both B and A site. You want to make sure to rotate that. You want to sit there and let him come to you guys, and y'all can just hound him like wolves at that point. But instead they sat there and rotate, which could have been, their fault. But overall, they survived it and they won that round.
Two players down already in here, but on either side. So 3v3 right now. Shockey going to take out Fades, but vice versa. So they both back off of each other. Another pick for the Naval Academy is going to put them at advantage, evened up almost instantly. But Don Julio's not letting go of it. A 2-on-1. And Nuclear leaves himself in another 1-on-1 here.
Against the man, the myth, the legend, Don
Julio. Does he spot out? He's going to see him, but a little bit late on that. Now, Nuclear, the first player of University of Hartford to win a 1v1 in this search and destroy. And a very important one, as he does bring them a little bit closer to a tie game.
Yeah, and Don, put himself in a really bad spot there. He was so exposed. The only thing he had was that rock covering, maybe his ankles down. He had so much exposed space there, and it's so unfortunate. Maybe he was waiting for a mid push there or something along the lines. But unfortunately, he was in an art gallery. He had a wide open shot on you, bud. He had great reflexes to sit there and turn around and try and do what he can. But besides that, we got plenty of guys trying to sit there and, go back and forth. Sadly, not being able to close it out right there. UHART looking really good with the 5-3 right here. We saw, 4-0 earlier? And now, and then the 4-1, this is looking good now. This could happen. What happened to Hardpoint could straight up happen again for S&D, for Hart winning another round here.
I mean, it was 5-1, man. 5-1. And Hartford only one round away from finding that tie. Fades not really having too much there. Stitch was right behind him to clean up, even if Shockey couldn't find it. So Hartford going to bring it back as much as they can here. And you're having a slow game from Don Julio. We're calling the man, the myth, the legend. Well, right now, he seems like just a legend. As Nuclear has been the one to shine on University of Hartford. 12-5, crossing that double-digit threshold now. Stitch is going to take the control of Bomb for Art control. Nuclear going to go to his bread and butter. Top Art. Fades is going to put some shots down. Low giveaway his positioning in Laundry. They are looking for an execute onto this B site. They just have to find that opening kill now. Shockey. He's got two players just watching this crossfire. Fades actually gives it up, and Putin, he was unchecked here. He's going to be on the flank. This is going to be huge right now for Naval Academy. If Putin can find some kills here, working alongside Don Julio, going to pinch out the entire team. They check Nuclear. He's going to take him down. Now two players down for University of Hartford. Absolutely falling apart in this game. Shockey's the next one to fall. All alone is Storm, but long last, it's going to be Naval Academy taking it 6-4.
That was Hart kind of had the lockdown there, but they didn't play it fast enough over there on the A side. They tried as much as they could, and they sat there and tried to make a push and do everything. But regardless, they just couldn't sit there and finish it up. They didn't follow through with the objective right there. They had Fades over there inside the laundry room, but they wanted to sit there and, there are going to be guys mid. So we probably need to play this a little slow. They didn't get the peaks they wanted right there in the back to make the push on the bomb. Have a man watching Laundry, which could have been the game changer right there if they got the bomb down. But, when you have these guys coming around for the flank, it really just sit there and changed the game with how Putin played it out and had all those trades and just maneuvered himself around the backfield to get all those kills and really close it out there for Naval Academy.
Well, I mean, you look at an earlier play that the Naval Academy had where Don Julio hit that exact same flank all the way around a garage to get in behind that team, but they had Stitch there to watch it. In that last round, Stitch had the bomb, so he almost puts him in a position where he has to play with the front foot forward, trying to take that bomb site alongside Shockey, who's on the pillars. So it left Putin open to hit that flank because nobody was checking it this time for the University of Hartford. Leaving that route open was so important for Naval Academy to just get in behind, leech away at that team, and kind of take literally that whole game by storm in the end of it with that from the University of Hartford, who are now down by 2, 0-2 in this series, and where we didn't really want to sweep
Yeah.
between both of these teams. This is sweep potential right here. University of Hart, their series life is on the line with this control.
Yeah, and speaking on control now, we're going to checkmate once again. You said you love this map, especially on the control side. I'm sure you can talk a little more about it than in that case, because I personally love control, especially even after the switch from domination last year, it's still having to get adapted to. But overall, it's really enjoyable. So obviously, you're a little more familiar with it. So maybe you could sit there and talk about how this plays
Oof.
out a little bit on this checkmate map.
Well, where do I start? I mean, you got domination exactly from Modern Warfare, and out with the old, in with the semi-old but new style of it. As you know, Black Ops 4 was the first interaction that we had with Control, and it was good with that 5-on-5 setting. A little bit different now with the spawns that Cold War has, along with the 4-on-4 aspect that Cold War has. It's just literally a slower game in the sense for this Control, so that leaves it more methodical now. I remember a few weeks back, and I talk about this quite often for Controls, that I was looking at the EU broadcast for Challengers, and Mad Cat was on there talking about Checkmate itself, and seeing Mad Cat talk about the different ways that Checkmate allows for the attackers to have an opportunity for Checkmate to be kind of both sided instead of just a defender sided game mode. You're really looking at the attackers to full flood to one of these sites. I mean, right
Yeah.
away you have to find control of a site, and that's going to stem off of control of the plane as well, because you can't have that crossfire that is allowed for a map like Checkmate through the bottom plane, top plane, crates, as well as just seeping through with the submachine gun routes that are there. And when you're looking at a map like Checkmate for the attackers, you have to send at least two onto the checkpoint, or two onto the objective, two to the plane for that control, to kind of take away at least one line of sight that is allowed. And if you can get early control of A or B right off the bat, that spells for a really good lead. But if you're
Yeah.
looking at the counter point for a map like Checkmate, you have the defenders the ability to kind of once again contest top plane, set up on those different line of sights that is allowed for a map like Checkmate. And even if you can get that full four wipe, it's a lot of spawn trapping that can happen on this map too. So
Yeah.
it's honestly, it's a coin flip right off the start. You have to see the attackers come out with fire.
Which, we do have, thankfully for Checkmate, out of this control, we do talk about a lot how there's, this spawn trapping can be really easy in this mode, sadly enough. That's the one contention I have with it personally. But on top of that, Checkmate does have those two little good spots to lock it down to sit there and retaliate. Over on the far side, depending on which side you spawn from, you do have that plane. You do have the rear plane down on one side. You have a watchtower on another. On both sides, you got somewhere to sit there and come back and fight and get a little chance to increase your area of influence. And with these guys, I don't know if we're going to see any spawn trapping, thankfully, because it's always just so dirty. But besides that, we are looking at these guys. We haven't seen too much objective play. We saw them go down to the dogs and get super kind of dirty when it came to hard point. We saw them going for a lot of kill based matches and only playing it slow when they were forced in those positions on raid and with SND. I feel like this is going to be a very ticket reliant kind of matchup when we're coming into control.
I mean, why don't we just leave it to these teams on the map? You say you don't expect to see those spawn traps. Well, hey, I mean, I just saw what Putin did in that last round for the Naval Academy. I saw what Don Julio was going for earlier, and that it
Yeah.
shows me that they are wild to go into the back line of these
Yeah.
teams. So hey, those spawn traps, they might be coming at us for checkmate. So we're going to be hopping in with this map number 3. You're looking at University of Hartford to bring it back as they are down by 2 on series point, though. Naval Academy looking to shut this down at 3-0 sweep.
And already looking at a huge push here on the plane with how much influence it has. These guys have to sit there and deuce this out, try and get that influence, because once you grab the mid, this is how it comes down to control. if you sit there and grab mid, you have such an easy way to sit there and hop on either one objectives with them being so close to each other in this map and everything being so hectic. It almost feels like a coliseum just with a little plane in it. It's really odd, but it's really interesting to see how teams can maneuver this map with Hartzell already cracking down on B side here, as you said, a quick rush on the objective.
Oh, 4 down now for Hartford, as it is going to be the Naval Academy pushing to the spawn trap. I was expecting Putin cleaned up fast by Nuclear, so really good check right now from Hartford. But now they have to get through the second line of sight. Now FaZe going to do exactly that. He got Nuclear now. He's being flooded on from the rest. 2 go down now. Storm's going to find it finally. Naval Academy push on back. 4 down now for the yellow, as it is Shockey. Going to start getting the progression here. He can find a few kills. He's going to push them even farther back. The 6 huge right now from Don Julio, but on the other side, 3 go down. B site's capped, and A site is halfway to the exact same fate now. This is looking good for Hartford if they can find this. Nobody contesting it on the side of Naval Academy. If nobody touches, it's going to be just a round point, and not a single person stepped onto it. And Hartford with the easiest cap on the A side I've ever seen, a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, that was really quick by them. They locked down B really, really well there. You know, they sat there. Even with Naval Academy winning that engagement on the plane, they didn't take as much advantage of it. As you see, they pushed the spawns, as we talked about, you know, trying to push and get that area of influence. We have a man on B, you're forced to turn around. And they didn't work from front to back in that situation. They tried to work from back to front. But as we say, you know, when you're trying to get a larger area of influence and you have at least a little outlier somewhere in there, you got to scatter to sit there and find it. Otherwise, they're going to be getting control of that point the whole time. And, you know, Hartford doing a very good job of that.
You saw Putin and Fade setting up for the spawn trap. Just wasn't successful this time. And as soon as they cleaned up 4, they just kept on rolling forward. Now we're back to the plane. Winnie the Pooh working with Don Julio. He's going to be cleaned up by Stitch, though. Nuclear alongside them. 3 go down. Make it 4 for Naval Academy as they're back on the respawn. And Shockey is going to make sure that they have no contention on this B site.
Yeah, doing a really good job, you know, seeing they're winning those strays right there. You had 1 man for 3 in favor of Hartford right there, sitting there getting those trades, already pushing into their spawn, you know, getting really down and dirty with these guys, possibly locking them down. You know, he's not going to sit there and push with his team, but he's going to be a solo wolf. He's going to be a lone wolf down there in the end zone, trying to sit there and fade it out as much as he can and get his kills here and there. Sadly, getting poked out by Don Julio, but regardless enough, really scary for the guys over at Naval Academy for this round.
Look, Stitch has got the anime skin. He's in the back line. He is set right now for Hartford, as he is 9-3, right back where he was in that hard point, in the same position. Now Nuclear is setting up for that spawn trap over on Crates with the rest of them, setting up this line of scrimmage in front of the Naval Academy spawn. Now Stitch right back into there. We're gonna have Winnie the Pooh backing out of this game. The rest are going down for Naval Academy, as this might be server issues for the teams, internet connection issues. Something's wrong with here, and that's why Naval Academy is leaving it, as that was absolute destruction from the University of Hartford.
Yeah. And it just talking about Stitch here, man. He ran right in there. He was like, you know what? Forget the objective. You guys got it. I'm gonna go spawn trap him right quick, and I'm gonna see how well I can do with that. Doing a great job at it, nonetheless. Getting shut down by Don Julio once, but getting right back where he left off. You know, getting those trades, letting the guys worry about the objectives, holding down right there on B spot, trying to sit there and spread out and have the widest field of view on these guys possible. You know, really shutting them down. And, you know, maybe that's why they left. Maybe they're like, whoa, we got to talk about this. Something ain't right. But it's connection issues, obviously. But, you know, it's just fun to think, you know, how we expect this to be kind of one-sided, but Hartford are really charging in for this control, saying, you know, we messed up on hard point. We need to get back to that, and we can win it this time.
Well, they look exactly at that championship caliber that they were at in that map 1. I mean, when they had that whole 100-point lead at that 150 to 50 mark that Hartford was leaving, it's just, I don't know what's clicking inside both of these teams. 1 second they're hot, the next second they're cold, and Hartford finally finding their rhythm once again when their back is against the wall. And seeing Naval Academy kind of jump out there is a little bit interesting, because I mean, having that hot and cold from these teams is just it shows that there is probably a lot of internet issues between the both of them. So we are going to be heading to a quick break to let these issues resolve. So we'll be right back with the College Bravo stream. And I'm sure it won't take long. What did I tell you? I told you it wouldn't take long at all, and here we are, right back to it now. The teams, they're gonna make their way through round one once again, and then we're gonna hop into round number two. And Mick, it was a little bit lackluster from Naval Academy.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the internet connection is a little bit better here. What do you want to see them change up though into this round?
I want to see a lot of deucing out in the points here. I want to see some point contention. I want to see some back and forth. I want to see some pips going up and then going down. I don't want to see any kind of solid, just full circles going around because it doesn't give us much to talk about and it doesn't give us a lot to work with. But personally, I mean, it's really nice, I'm sure, for these teams to get so dominant. But on our behalf, and especially for some of these viewers who are just here for a good game, we want to see these back and forth like we did in the first hardport.
Well, it looks like these teams are feeling a lot better now. If you're confused on what control might be, well, you got 30 lives from both teams. You got 2 minutes or a minute and a half to capture A and B for the attackers. For the defense, now you just got to hold them either to the lives or to the time limit. And right now, as you do see two picks go to Naval Academy, Don Julio getting really aggressive through the play. Now he's going to find another one as he looks like he's revving on all engines right now for this team. Progression at A, and they're capping at B as well.
Yeah, we see that, Don Hula, he's holding down this plane, but he's letting so many kind of objectives be touched here. You see, they got two guys on A, and, he's letting these guys establish their dominance. Naval really showing that, hey, maybe it might have actually been that connection because he sits there, he takes it over, and he's like, all right, we got A locked down really quick. That's the hard one to capture. But now that we're on B, I just need to get under this plane. I need to sit there and group my teammates, and we got to sit there and lock this down. We're already at half. Keep this momentum going with Putin already kind of moving into the back, grabbing that pick. And, I can feel safe assuming that we're going to be able to grab this.
Well, Naval Academy look crazy on fire right now. They already got one ticket progression over at the B side. Winnie LaPoo setting up on the boxes. Finally cleaned up by Shockey here. Faith captured again on the site. They're going to get that second tick of progression. They have plane control. They have to watch out for this pinch from number 2. That's going to be Storm. So they clean up the player on B, but this is really troublesome for Hartford as they're backed up into the spawn and is the player life advantage in favor of Naval Academy. They're still at 20 lives, and you only need one tick of progression here. Julio's going to be on site with the teammate. 2 players on. Shockey going back and forth. LaPoo and FaZe now capturing it out. They got that trade onto Stitch. Nobody going alive, and it's just so efficient right now from Naval Academy. This round number 2 is stellar right now from the boys in gold here. Julio going to pick up the last one. The contention is still going back and forth, and it's very interesting seeing how strong Naval Academy is now.
Yeah, we see Shockey actually trying to be the first one on that point. It looked mostly uncontested up until that second pip. Shockey finally, or just another teammate, finally getting down onto that point, utilizing the other side of those crates where, right there by the barrel, you have a tiny bit of point to stand on there and contest it, and you have to get a teammate to sit there from Naval Academy to kind of flank it around and get that pick so you don't have to endanger yourself on the plane to move out there. But Shockey instead making a move, not letting the time buy out, instead just getting as aggressive as he can, sadly losing that gunfire right there, but putting us at a 1-1 now. And, Naval Academy actually showing up to this, showing such a strong start on A, knocking out that hard point, or not objective-wise, but the hard point to capture, and moving on to B, and a really strong start for them.
Only 20 kills in that second round for Naval Academy. They're able to find it, too, so not a very contested point here. Once from that second round for Naval Academy, and now Stitch looking for the B control right away, expecting the flank from Julio, and he's gonna find the pick as well. So it's a take of progression now for the sites of University of Hartford here for the B site, and if they can capture B right away, that'll be huge for their attack.
Yeah, and we saw Naval Academy do the complete opposite of what these guys are doing. Instead, they went for A first, and now they're on B. But we see Hart going, on the exact opposite. They're starting with B. They're going with that large kind of, that big open area kind of objective, holding that down, making sure they're pressing as best they can. But rather than that, and then moving on to A. So they're just sticking to it. At this point, with all these guys, you see so many guys, you're going to be locked down on B. You see them winning these gunfights. Usually at this point, you say, maybe we should make a rotation, give, some guys out a little bit, go for A, but instead just sticking on to B. And Hartford doing a really good job just locking it down.
Still holding on to that only one ticket progression, 35 seconds left, 22 lives and against 20 lives here. This is a really slow game from either team. Very efficient, not letting too many deaths on either side. Just not stepping on the point now is Hartford, as 2 kills go in favor of the red side. Fades and Putin going to be holding that crossfire to make sure they can't step on the B side. But back and forth now. University of Hartford just barely staying alive in the kill side to make sure that they can keep a foot on. A big nade. He's going to take up Stitch. Still staying alive on the point halfway through this. Contention comes through. The slide's going to have the backup. Winnie the Pooh cleaned up by Stitch with a double kill. Stitch looking for the third, but Fades is able to find that one, as it is Hartford barely sticking to this B side, barely finding the second ticket progression as the contention just keeps on flowing through for Naval Academy.
And we see these guys once again. I mean, if you look instead of what's going on, in terms of gunplay, you look in this bottom left going on here. We see guys spawning literally right down the alleyway of A, but instead they just keep going for B over and over and over again. At that point, you have to cut your losses and say, we need to make a rotation. We got to spread these guys out. They're focusing B because we're rushing it so much. We need to make a rotate. We got to spread them out, because if you're on that objective, you don't have to worry about time. The clock stops, and if you sit there and get a point, you get a full refresh of time. And at that point, you can just say, now we can go for kills. Now we can rush B hard, and we have all the time in the world to do it. But when you're put into that situation where you only have one pipping, you're getting locked down, you have to somebody has to make an executive decision to say, all right, look, this isn't working.
Now into round number 4. 2-round lead from Naval Academy as they find it. Two linked rounds back to back. Shockey taking some heavy fire from Don Julio on that A site, but it does look like they have their eyes set on that A once again, just like the previous round where University of Hartford, they wanted that B side last time. Now Julio on the back line doesn't even have to take out Shockey, so they're unaware that this player is pushed up as far as he is. 2 players taking progression at A. Nuclear going to be cleaned up by the Craig, recovered from Don Julio. It does look like they're going to get 2 takes of progression as well before anything starts to happen for Hartford, and possibly even be seeing Hartford give up the A site in total.
Yeah, and as we see once again, these guys just hard rushing A, knocking that out. As you see, they have a whole 2 minutes. They do have the lives locked down in terms of how many tickets they have left, but these guys, they lock that down. They're like, look, we are USNA gold. Like, we need to just go ahead and get this objective out of the way. These guys aren't going to spread forward that much. They had 1 man allocated. We had Julio come with the flank once again. So they're saying, all right, I'm going to lock it down. We're going to get this flank going. We're going to capture this objective. And we have all the time in the world to breathe. We can get into gunfights. We can do whatever we want. But as long as we just try and get that B objective, we're going to run into those. We can win this right here and just call it a night. And, USNA really showing up after this whole reconnect.
You see the time, exactly what you're looking at, as they had 2 minutes to take this B site. Now the lives are even at the moment right now, but with the defensive lineup setting up for University of Hartford, I want to see them start pushing like they were doing the first side, but Fades with a big double kill getting the back line of Hartford, able to root them away from that B side, allow for a little bit of correction onto that point before Hartford can come on back. Now the Floods are going to be coming through, and playing controls in favor of Naval Academy as Winnie the Pooh and Don Julio combine for 2, make it 3. I was going to say, but Nuclear with some brilliant shots onto Don Julio. Winnie the Pooh now in the back line, going to clean up that player. He's looking for more. Shockey, the next one in his line of sights. B side going to find a ticket progression for the Naval Academy, but now finally Stitch is going to be there to root them. Don Julio and Putin both down. Hartford, they're stabilizing again, but they're down by 4.
Yeah, and we saw these guys, they did a great job right there in the back, trying to get those flanks going, sitting there and locking down construction right there in the back. But unfortunately, these guys that were on the point, they made that push there. When, when you're on the objective, you play defense. You're the one who has the upper hand. You're playing King of the Hill, and you're King of the Hill right now. Don't let a man come up and sit there. You're not threatened on that throne until somebody else tries to get into it. And if you got a guy sitting on the back, you can sit there and chill all day. Let him sit there and just watch that point. If you're not doing anything, neither is he. And once you know it's contested, that's when you can make that engage, knowing it's going to be a lot closer of a gunfight. So
Well,
you know it's
Hartford
just
are dropping so many players just trying to get to this B side. Stitch on a multi-kill finally, as he is able to break through and stabilize once again. Now you're 7 lives to 4 lives. Stitch tearing up on a 5 spree here. Make it 6. I was going to say, but he had help for that one. Shocky going to take it away from him. 6 seconds left now for the Naval Academy to touch the point, and it looks so good for the longest time. I mean, they had the death rise for a while, but Stitch hits that 7 spree before he's able to do it. And it looks like if Hartford can just wipe this point one more time, they're going to find the round, and so they do. We have a 5th one for this control, and it seems like Naval Academy, they're going to have the defensive end.
Yeah, and we saw, unfortunately, they didn't lock down B as hard. I think Hartford, after playing that objective so hard on that last round, that they're like, okay, we know this is point like the back of our hand. This is the only one we touched this last round. So if we lose this, we have nothing to talk about. We have no way to sit, and we have nothing to sit there and negotiate when it comes to practices later. So we need to sit there and make sure we win this and know whenever it comes around to being back on offense that we can take this, or, you know, we can go for A and take a play out of Naval Academy's playbook. Like, we have to sit there and adjust to this if we're going to sit there and give us any chance to come back tonight, because we've seen comebacks back and forth tonight. And especially with USNA grabbing those 2 rounds in a row, and maybe, you know, we could see a comeback in the whole kind of circuit out of Hartford, you know, grabbing if they can get these 3 games.
Stitch here. Good progression onto the B side here. University of the Naval Academy losing a player here from a DC, so Naval Academy really in a bad position. This could be a good opportunity for Hartford to send us to game number 4 here with this DC. Is Winnie the Pooh finally going to clean it up with the help of Fade to take away this progression for the B side? It looks like they're going to be setting up for an A hit this time.
Yeah, and I think these guys are finally realizing, you know, you got Nuclear over there in the back kind of holding it out. He could go for an A push right there rather than lining it up and just proccing B. But I think, you know, these guys, after winning it last round, they have the confidence to carry it into B side to say, you know, we got it this time. We're already at halfway. If I can grab the second pip, we have a lot more breathing room in terms of how we can interact. Sadly, getting traded out right there, but Shocky and the guys trying to follow it up and make sure that these guys can't take that whole second pip back that they just tried to work for.
And even Don Julio on a 3 spree isn't enough, really, to stop. All right, to stop University of Hart, because they're just blasting through. But finally, he is able to find that stabilization for them, cleaned up by Stitch. Now Fade, he's not enough for it. Winnie the Pooh turning up where Don Julio left off on a 3 spree of his own. If you can find Nuclear, that's going to spell his 4th, but a little bit bad timing. He still finds it with the 74 use, so 22 seconds left. Suddenly, University of Hartford, they're sweating a little bit because Winnie the Pooh is tearing up your team on a 5 spree. As the 17 lives to 14, you're down a whole player, but it's looking like Winnie the Pooh does not care. So you do have a foot on the site. That is going to be Storm. Winnie the Pooh rotating on back to lead it up. He's going to find it. They move over to the A site. B site's on lock. UNSA, I mean, Pooh is finally back, and they're looking on fire here. They clean up the A site. Now, it's just back and forth from this team. Nuclear trying to keep it, and Naval Academy, they with the absolute backs against the wall, they're somehow gonna find this. Still 5 seconds left. Nobody on B side. Stitch trying to touch on the A side. He gets his foot on, but Bates is here to clean up the both of them, and that is going to be the Naval Academy taking it in round number 5 of the control with a player DC the whole time. Absolute insane plays from the Naval Academy.
I think it's just unfortunate to see that Hartford had to sit there and know that, okay, they're down a player, now we can move A side. Because you saw that's when they sat there and started to make that rotate finally. They're like, okay, they're down a man. We can spread out a little bit because they have less resources to allocate. And it was just too little too late, you know, and sadly, that's what kind of spelled their demise, especially with these guys like Don and Pooh's pushing up so hard and saying, all right, we're in their space. We are all up in their grill right now. If I can sit there, it doesn't matter if they have a man on the objective. They're not going to see one coming from the back. I'm gonna, with how many guys they got going right now, there's a lot more comms. We're kind of a little calmer in comms right now. We got to sit there and utilize what we have. We need to calm down. We need to sit there and get these trades. We saw Dawn going up, sitting there getting those trades, and then we saw Booge sitting there just doing what he can. Everybody contributing a lot right there and making sure that even though we're down a man, each one of us individually had to pick up that slack, and that's exactly what they did.
I mean, the slack was definitely grabbed from Naval Academy after that first one. They hoisted their anchors and they were ready to take it away from the University of Hartford. Now you look at that round. I mean, 250 to 239 to start this up, and after that, it was all Naval Academy from there. I mean, the hiccups that we saw along the way were just little bumps in the road that the Naval Academy were stumbling with. Now it's been a long game number one today for the
Yeah.
Bravo stream. Let me tell you that, because we're finally going to be moving on from the University of Hartford and the Naval Academy. And I cannot tell you that seeing the Naval Academy just pop off the way that they did it's just it looks so good for the rest of the round. In Hartford, if they can find a few little fixes
Mhm.
for their play styles, I mean they could be right back into us. But I mean for the Bravo stream, Mick, it's been wonderful. It's been a
Yep.
great week for the two of us. We have to pass on the torch to the next one because coming up right after this break is going to be the University of Sacred Heart versus the University of New Haven, and casting that one, Keg and Cruz. So, ladies and gentlemen, the College COD Bravo stream will be right back with some new faces, some new teams, and some new actions. Stay tuned.